fresh, a little bit of lime, foam, and sour cream, ice cream. Absolutely wonderful. The banana is delicious. It's perfect.
Back in the bearings. So this works. What you do when you're packing, you want to pack it and make it come out through the middle of it like that. That's why you're packing it. So as I come here, I'm going to take it and I'm going to drive it. I'm going to drive it into there to where it starts pushing out, and that completely packs that bearing. All right, after you get the bearings packed, have your seal ready here. This is really simple. It's no big deal at all. Just grab your pack. All right, so just drop the bearing down inside of here. We used to think we had to pack grease up inside there. The grease won't do anything if you pack it up in there. Just leave it dry. Put your bearing down in there, and then just grab your seal. No big deal. And you don't need to necessarily have to have a special tool to do this. I'm going to try to do this one-handed. You got to kind of get started on one side and start tapping it into place. Start working around in a circle, just slowly, gently tapping it. Don't get all crazy with it. And then you can hear it when the sound changes. It's flush on there, and that's good to go. There ain't nothing else to it. And we got the spindle where we need it. So it's kind of lined up properly. Backing plate, the brakes goes on here. It looks really low. You can see how the brake line goes on there. It's going to go through the original holder here, and it's going to use one of the original clips, and then the brake line here we'll just attach into it. So here we go.
Texture is that there's no separation. Well, one side is better, so I think it's time for us to try something.
Alright, so this is in the right position. We're going to go ahead and put all 6 of the spindle nuts on it. There's a certain way that the spindle nuts go on there. Let me show you this real quick. after you have the rotor on there, this one here that has this little titty on it goes on first. It's going to thread on, and then you're going to put your socket on there with a wrench, and you're going to hand snug that. You're going to preload it. That's a feel thing. It's all about how tight you preload those bearings. I don't really know how tight to say to get it, but you can feel resistance on the rotor when you're turning it. It's tight enough, maybe a little bit tighter. So as you're tightening it up, you're going to have to be aware kind of that position of that pin right there. So now once you have that snug in there, and mind you, this is all going to be happening up inside of the hub. You're not going to be able to see it very good. The next thing, if you look at the washer has tons of holes, and it has that one notch right there. That coincides with this notch right here on the spindle. Okay, so when you put it on there, it fits there, and if you'll notice, it won't go in because that hole doesn't line up right there. So what you have to do is you have to take the washer back off. You're going to have to tighten this a little bit, put the washer back in place so that it fits flat. Then the outer one goes on. It is not pinned. It does not have a pin on it. It goes on, and then you hammer the snot out of that. You go ahead and put the impact on it. I don't impact it a whole lot, but that locks the whole package together right there. That's what keeps the wheel bearings and everything in place in there on the inside. Alright, this seal likes to have a little bit of grease on it, so I'm just going to work my finger around there and grease a little bit. This upper lip right up here is where that seal rides. The bearing pushes up flush against that backing, so I'm going to put a little bit of grease right there. And then I'm going to get this rotor put in place and go ahead and put it all together. Rotor's in place. Next goes your bearing. Just fits up in there. Then your nut that has a little titty on it. Here's where it's got to have some resistance, so I can feel the resistance. I'm tightening it up, and it's pretty tight right there. There's a lot of grease in that bearing, though, that's getting moved around right now and switched around, so it's going to feel a little tight. See, that feels pretty darn good right there. And I'm going to get I know where the notch is on the spindle, so I'm going to grab this deal, and I'm going to hope that it's lined up with a little titty. And you can feel if it's lined up with a titty because it'll rock in there if it's not. The first thing I'll do is I'll turn it around and go the other way, because it has a different offset on the holes, and put it on there, and that's not going to work. So I'm going to have to bump it a little bit. I'm probably going to bump it a little bit on the tight side, so I'm going to move it a little bit more tight. Let's see if I can feel where the titty is. Right there. So I'm going to put this in place. And voila, that's flush. It's flush just like I had it when I was showing you earlier. So now I'm going to take the lock nut and start it on there. A little tricky. Get it started. Now, I'm going to wipe this space down one last time just in case there's any grease on it. Now the caliper, it really likes to have grease on these slides. The caliper floats on these things back and forth, so it needs a little grease up inside where these pins go. And this is not normal grease. This is a super high temperature grease that can take the kind of temperatures that this caliper is going to see. I don't know, hundreds of degrees. So we'll grease these things up. The pins like a little grease on them. I'm telling you, it needs to slide. Pins go through each one of these two holes. Careful not to touch the face of the pad with your greasy fingers. The inner pad, I'm going to look and see where it contacts. And it contacts a lot. These pads got shims made on the back side. It probably doesn't need any grease on it, but I'm going to put a little on there anyway. Well, here's one little surprise, and since I don't have any instructions, you wouldn't really notice this, but back on the back side of this, right straight down here, there's a little knob there on the knuckle you can see, and if you look straight down in there, it just barely does clear the caliper, but this caliper has got to float. It has to float back and forth as if it's wearing and movement. That ain't enough. And I remember looking on the internet, looking at some stuff, and I noticed somebody had grinded that down there, and that would explain why. So I'm going to have to yank this apart and grind that little knob off there. You might wonder why I'm not putting Loctite on these bolts. I don't know. They're fine thread grade A bolts that came in the kit. These things are going to get hammered in there, and they got lock washers on them. They ain't coming back out. So I think in the past, when I rebuilt this thing before, I'd probably put some Loctite on these things. Probably the blue on there instead of the red. The blue you can take off without having heat. The red you're supposed to have heat on it. But this is going to stay like this. Ain't no big deal. Locking up with the kitty.